Welcome back to the Texas Division Music and Arts Tutorials. This time we're going to be talking about tips for beginner band training. Maybe you are thinking about starting up a beginner band at your corps, or you already have a group but it's kind of stagnant. I just wanted to provide some tips that have worked for me. Again, there are many ways to train a band, so maybe you won't agree with everything that's said here, but at least you can add something to your bag of tricks. Now, if you're just starting out, let me just stress it's important to try to get parent involvement if at all possible. So on our website we've included a beginner band contract, and this just lays out some of the expectations you have with the group, and you can also include the instrument and serial number that the student is borrowing, just to keep track of your inventory. So have the parent and the student sign this at the beginning, just so you lay out what's expected. We've also uploaded a beginner band practice record, and this is a sheet the students can take home each week and record the number of minutes they practice every night. They can have their parents sign it and bring it back, and then this is a good incentive for them to keep practicing and developing. At the end of the semester, you could do a special prize or a party for those that have practiced the most or reached a certain number of minutes. I would typically include a theory homework assignment on the back as well, just something you can write out and have them continue working on reading music during the week. Discipline is also another big issue for band classes, and it's something you want to address right off the bat. So go ahead and figure out what your rule is going to be and make that list as short as possible. One of my favorites is no noise unless asked, because that really covers playing out of turn or talking out of turn. You just say that, we only want noise when it's asked, and normally we're going to do it as a group. Whatever your rules are, you need to have clear expectations for the consequences. And so that can be a first offense is a talk with a corps officer, a second offense, a call to the parent, and then a third offense, maybe they're suspended for a week or so on. Now let's actually get on to some tips for music teaching. When you're presenting most musical concepts, you want to do it in steps and try to have as few steps as possible. For example, for posture, I would say sit at the edge of your chairs and then make your backs as stiff as a board. We want to sit just like we stand, so you want to encourage this in all elements of their playing. Another example is getting them to buzz or make a sound on their mouthpiece. So first I just start by asking the whole class to make a horse sound, like that, and you get a lot of laughs from the kids. And then I'll tell them to make it a little tighter, like a B. And then we can add the mouthpiece. Some students won't get this right away, so just keep working on it with them, and move on if you have to, and work with the students that don't get it after class. For embouchure, I use 3 steps. Step 1 is to keep their teeth apart. Step 2 is to put the mouthpiece right in the center of their lips. And step 3 is to firm the corners of their lips like someone's pinching it. Embouchure is very tough and it's different for everyone, but this should give you somewhere to start. Most importantly, beginners struggle with keeping their teeth apart. So another example I use is to ask the students to keep their lips together while keeping their teeth apart. This automatically drops their jaw, allowing for an open airway. Once they can get a steady buzz on their mouthpiece, you'll want to introduce tonguing. I have the students start with their tongue touching the roof of their mouth right behind their top teeth. Their air then releases the tongue like they're spitting a sunflower seed. When having them demonstrate tonguing outside of the mouthpiece, I have students use the syllable to instead of ta. This way their jaw stays as still as possible. When students are first starting out, they should try to connect all notes so they get used to having a steady airstream that's briefly interrupted by their tongue. I like to use the analogy of swiping your hand through a running faucet. Like the water, your air keeps going, but your tongue, like the hand, generates a quick separation. Reading music is one of the most important aspects of being a musician, but it can be dull at first, so these next set of tips are aimed at making the learning process interactive. With each of these steps, include tapping their foot so they understand the concept of a steady beat. Make sure they keep their heel on the ground and tap their toes so that it doesn't make too much noise or make them move around a lot in their chair. The first step is probably pretty basic, and it's called count, clap, and tap. So of course the foot is tapping. Whatever our rhythm is, we're just going to clap it in tempo. Now, if you have a quarter note, you just clap like you would regularly. If you have a half note, it gets 2 beats of sound. So for that second beat, we're going to clap and then beat through with our hands together, just to remind ourselves that the air is still going and the sound is still going. The same thing for longer notes like whole notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. So for our rhythm, we would clap it like this. 1, 2, ready, clap. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's pretty basic, but at least it keeps the kids busy and they're learning to read music at the same time. The second step is called finger and name and tap. So we're going to ask the students to sit with good posture, and they're going to hold their instruments just like they regularly would, except they're going to put their mouthpiece on their chin. So our fingers are above the valves and we're going to push them down at the appropriate time. So for that same example, we're going to sing the note names and push the buttons down, or if you have a trombone, they can slide along. So it will go like this. G, E, E, F, D, D, C, D, E, F, G, G, G. This step is very challenging for beginners, so you might have them start off by singing the melody at first. G, E, E, F, D, and so on. Then you can have them do the valves or slide along without singing. You as a teacher can just sing and they can just push the buttons along. And then you can add it together to make the full step. It is important to try to sing in pitch. So get used to that as a teacher, and then the kids, they'll listen to you and match your pitch, and eventually they'll be able to do it on their own. It's very important to sing because they only have 3 buttons, but there's an unlimited amount of notes they can play, so they have to use their ears and be able to sing it before they can play it. The third step is simply to play it just like we normally would, and of course continue to encourage them to tap their feet to keep a steady tempo. These steps might seem a little basic, but sometimes if you have a lesson plan like this written out, it helps with the direction of your class. With harder exercises, it may also help to break it down, split it into 2. For example, you can work on the first 4 measures, you can work on the second 4 measures, and then you can put the whole exercise together. Another thing you want to consider as a teacher is the repertoire and curriculum you're going to use. For a beginner band, Standard of Excellence has been a go-to book for many years. Standard of Excellence is great for Salvationists because it includes E-flat horn books and baritone and trombone books and treble clef. In the Texas division, we also have a book called Texas Musical Excellence by Andy Draper. And this book is similar to Standard of Excellence, but it's made specifically for brass, and it also includes examples that use hymn tunes. So this is a great resource for you, and it's available on our website. Once they know the basics, the Salvation Army also has a couple other books that can get them playing in parts. First Book of Hymn Tunes by Bill Himes and Basic Brass Winds and Percussion by Tom Scheibner include 3-part arrangements for brass. So this would be a Cornet 1 book, a Cornet 2 and E-flat book together, and then a low brass book. One of the first pieces I always teach my groups is from Basic Brass Winds and Percussion called Doxology. This way the students have a steady gig every week playing for the tithes and offerings. Once they move beyond just this 3-part playing, there are a couple of other books and publications they can get into. One is also available on our website called YP Courses for YP Band by Holly Ruthberg. This is arrangements in 3 and 4 parts that include a lot of youth courses that you could use for Sunday school preliminaries. It also comes with a piano accompaniment, so if you only had 1 or 2 brass players, they could play their parts along with the pianist. A little more advanced is our American Instrumental Ensemble series published by the Southern Territory, and this is for 4 players with an optional 5th part, and it's leveled by 1 to 4, so you can pick based on the level of your group. This is available for a subscription, so you can get 16 new arrangements every year if you contact the trade department. Again, there are many different ways to teach beginner band, and all students need a little something different. So hopefully these tools you can add to your bag of tricks and continue growing brass bands across the Salvation Army. Keep up your hard work. We appreciate you as leaders, and be in touch if you have any questions or need us to come out and work with your group.
That looks as good as I thought it would.